Boys and girls, let's talk about swing cylinders and other cylinders on this is a John Deere 48 backhoe on a 4400. It's a gland nut tool. I tell you, these little pins that they provide, that one actually broke with a chisel and a punch, or excuse me, a punch and a hammer, and got it off without having to do a whole lot of work. But by the time I got around doing the other one, I found out I was going to have to pull it. It was not going to budge with a little bit of space. There's this plate of steel we want to talk about. This is what holds. This is the top. Holds that thing down. This is the four. Only you got to pull 4 bolts. Get that puppy out. I pulled 2 hoses so far. This one over here is right above the bolts. Comes down 1 inch and a 7/8. And then there was this one that was wrapped behind, so it just wouldn't slide out. I had to pull this one, and that's 11/16 and 7/8 on the top. I think it's a 3/8. So there's some moral to the story. Is I wish I would have tried to break both gland nuts before I made a trip all the way to the shop in order to get the seals that I needed. So while she's still running and operating, I'd recommend trying to brake. You swing the arm all the way to one side, swing the arm all the other side, and try to get those gland nuts off. Because otherwise, I just would have pulled these both simultaneously. They're much easier to pull when they're in the machine, as far as having something to anchor it to. These do have these wings, so these wouldn't be too bad to try to get in on a table on a vise, something fancy. What else? In order to get access to those 4 bolts, I pulled the outrigger, pulled the bottom and the top. Actually, not necessarily, but in all cases, that dropped that down and gave you enough room to get in there. The top and bottom of those 4 bolts are 15/16. I recommend, man, if you even had 2, well, anyway, one wrench, possibly 2 wrenches, and it was helpful to have a real low profile socket using the breaker bar, which is a little lower profile. I was able to fish it in on top of 2 of them that had a little less clearance towards the back. Anything else? Oh, here's something I thought of is when I did some other hose work. These are little cover caps. I hung on to those and put them in a little container. I have a little slew of them down there, and I was able to keep the gunk and junk. Wasn't paying attention. Sure enough, that thing scraped in there and filled up because I wasn't quick on the draw. I noticed some slop, and here we go. We look. I think this one just wore all the way out and is gone. I didn't see it sitting on top, so I guess that thing can technically just work right out of the top. There's nothing holding it in there. So I'll look at getting that. That's the advantage too of pulling that thing off. It's not the end of the world. I thought I'd like to inspect those bushings on the cylinder. Replaced that bushing at the shop. Gentleman took care of it. And but this one I checked the clearance on, and it was fine. Another thought was the wear on these are stationary, so they don't wear inside this area. But on the heavier end, they were wearing a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So I'm going to reverse them when I put them on, since it's kind of gravity. I think they're going to bias the wear on one side, so I'll reverse those. That's pretty good. 3.5 minutes. I know I'm going to wish I'd brought something else up. But, yeah, and it was useful to take that plate cover off the foot area, just for mainly accessing those hoses. It was not as bad as I thought. All right, fellas, good luck on your project.